morning, Kitchen Talk family. I'm your host, Lee Ann Moore, and I thank you so much for joining the show today. We have a wonderful guest on the show. We have Mr. Brandon D. Lamar. He's an activist, he's an author, he's an entrepreneur, and he's a wonderful guy. I have him on the show today so we can talk about all the civil unrest that we're going through right now. We just buried our brother Floyd, George Floyd, on Tuesday, and it was just such an emotional situation. We're now still in pandemic of COVID, and now we're in a pandemic of civil rights protesting. So I have coming up next Mr. Brendan Lamar for joining me this morning. Um, as I was telling the viewers earlier that you were born and raised here in Pasadena, and you are a young activist. I have
Absolutely.
here that you engage in issues and activities to solve problems surrounding the millenniums.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me more about that?
So I just consider myself to be an overall activist. It's not something that's particular in one area or another. Um, my activism just comes for the people. So whether it is civil rights, whether it is Black Lives Matter, whether it is our rights as a people, whether it is immigrant rights or minimum wage or housing, homelessness, foster care, all of the above, I've been in seats of of being an activist for all of those areas. I believe in letting our voice being heard as a people,
Mhm.
and so I believe that sometimes in certain arenas we have what we call muzzles over our mouth, meaning we can only say certain things in certain arenas. But I believe in letting your voice be heard, no matter how you're feeling or what you're feeling in that moment or time. And so that's where most of my activism actually comes from.
Okay. And we're now protesting right now. I think we're on the 15th or 17th day.
Hmm.
Tell me how, well, first of all, let's just back up at the beginning.
Absolutely,
We're paying our respects to the Floyd family of
absolutely.
the murder of George Floyd by a police officer. We all saw the video, and very disturbing. There's a young lady, 17 years old, named Darnella Frazier, who
Hmm.
recorded that video.
Hmm.
The bravery of her to stand there for the 8 minutes and 46 seconds in videotaping that. And I'm sure the police officers were saying something to her about it because we saw the videos of the discussions.
Hmm.
Uh, Starting at that point, how do you feel about what has happened since the time of that murder of George Floyd to now in the protest?
I think one thing we have to understand is the trauma that it took just for her to sit there and watch um, this incident take place. Because let's be honest, it was she just wasn't sitting there for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. She was standing there from the time it began to the time that he passed away, and even on afterward, recording. Just the recording that we saw was just in that length of time, right?
Right,
And
right.
so for her, I'm sure it was traumatic. I've seen even a video after of her at the scene, and she was just crying like, "I was there, I was there, I was sitting there." And so for me, I understand the traumatic side of that, but then also we have to understand too that this is one of the reasons why um, the African American community really doesn't trust the police officers because of things that they've seen or things that they experienced or different events that they've been involved in with police officers. This is the reason why that you have some African American communities that just their trust is just not in police officers. For me, I have a benefit because one of my mentors as a kid was actually out to sheriff deputy by the name of Samuel Estrada,
Okay.
and so I have that relationship. I also have friends that's in the police department in the Pasadena. And I also make it a note to network with some of the people that's in Pasadena Police Department And then even in other police departments, just because I believe that if they know your face, then we can have a better communication and a better outlook on the diversity that we need to see in our police department and in our communities. But because of the trauma that we've seen in front of our eyes, and it's going on all across America, it's just not in that one spot. Even though we've been protesting, it's still happening in our protests, in the middle
Right.
of our protests.
That's right.
And so it's just traumatic. The trauma that our communities have seen behind the hand of police officers is traumatic. But I believe that we need to bridge the gap. We need to start conversations. Our people need to start having conversations with police officers to see how we can actually bridge this gap so that we can actually be one community. So yeah, the whole experience is traumatic for everybody. I believe when one black person, whether it's black on black crime or it's through police brutality, when one of us get murdered or slaughtered or taken down, we all feel the pain of it. We all
That's
feel the
right.
hurt of it. And so, yeah,
Yeah, as you know, this show is an interactive show. So from time to time, we might get guests to pop in and give our comments. So I might throw them across the screen every now and then. But back to your point, I was thinking about that this morning. I showed you all the notes. You should see the sticky notes that I have on my desk here, preparing for this show, and I can't talk about everything, but
uh,
this morning I was thinking about what you just said about perhaps if we do some more community work, or the police departments do more community work with us, with our
absolutely,
people. Because as you can see, it wasn't just African Americans that were getting pushed down and hit and sprayed. Um, they have to have some kind of community involvement.
absolutely,
We've been here. We grew up here, you know, and not all bad officers, okay?
yep,
But I'm sure, and I'm saying that because you are African American man, I'm sure that you've had some incidences with the police department, with the police officers.
I mean, of course, I believe everybody, everybody that's probably living and breathing had an incident with police officers.
Mhm.
Probably more than others. But I've had a few myself from time where it said I got pulled over for a cop saying that I fit the description of somebody who was burglarizing a home. And they went through somebody's window. If you know me, and I'm 6'2" and I'm over 300 pounds, I can't fit in nobody's window. But then also I've had experiences when getting pulled over by the sheriff's department, and because of my size, just for not buckling my seatbelt, but just because of my size, they called seven other cars
Mhm.
that pulled up behind them. And so I've had experiences like that. But like I said, because of my relationship with certain officers and because of my engagement in the community, I don't let that affect me and I don't let that bother me. But then also I do understand that because I have the relationship with these officers or these deputies doesn't mean that the next black person
That's
does or
right.
the next black male does. And so that's one thing that we have to also be conscious of as well, is that not everybody has the relationships that you have, and
Right.
not everybody has a platform that you have. So how can we get our young African American brothers and sisters to be comfortable in the midst of police officers? And that number one starts, I don't think we have the solution to it, but number one, it starts with a conversation.
That's right. It does. It does. And I have friends who have young black sons,
Absolutely.
and they're worried about. I mean, they were worried before because, like you said,
Yes.
we've been going through this a long time, and they're worried even more now. They have to have that conversation. And
Absolutely.
I'm not a parent, but I can sympathize to the fact of, you're getting your son or daughter ready to go to school at a very young age.
Right.
And you have to have that discussion about how to drive, keep both hands on the steering wheel. It's just, I mean, even as a person driving, when the police pull you over, you want to make sure you have your hands on the steering wheel, just because you just feel, and that's not the way we should feel.
But
So
even in that, we've seen in times past and even in recent that that's not even enough.
That's right.
So sometimes, even your compliance is not even enough. You're compliant. And so now I've seen somebody, they made a video on social media saying now we have to teach our males, our, how to breathe with something on their neck.
Yes.
And so it seems like, once we get through one hurdle, we got to cross another hurdle time after time after time again. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it's just sometimes it just feel like it's never enough.
Right. Um, and we also talked about let's see, what was that? We talked about fighting for justice. I know Mr. Floyd, George Floyd's brother, was in front of Congress, the House, yesterday, along with sister of a killed police officer and some other victims of police brutality or a police officer getting killed. And he said he just wants the pain to stop. I mean, what we had about 11. We've had three this within the last 3 months
Hmm.
that have been killed. I mean, it's so many that I don't think we all. I mean, we should remember their names. We should be able to just to recite them. It's
Right.
been that many. Um, I understand that some of the states have banned, police departments have banned chokeholds. There's one
Hmm.
called air block chokehold and a blood
Hmm.
stop the blood circulation. So I understand that a few states are banning that on their own. What do you think individuals like us that we can do to make a difference? Because that's what the protesting is all about. I mean, I'm seeing all race of people protesting. And what do you think we can do as individuals to put our mark of making this change?
I think the first thing is letting your voice be heard. And one of the reasons we say that is because your voice actually matters. What you believe in, your opinion matters. And also, your vote matters, right? And so we have to get out there and vote for our leaders, our political leaders, our council members, our mayors. We have to get out there and vote for the people that we want in office. And
That's right.
also, we have to hold them accountable for what they said they're going to do. So if
That's
you say
right.
that you're going to have oversight, then we want to see oversight. If you say that you're going to increase funds for homelessness or for youth programming, then we actually want to see that, and we have to hold these people accountable for what they say.
That's right.
I'll say this. I think a lot of things that we see in our communities are because the community don't hold their leadership accountable. So the same way we voted you in is the same way we can vote you right back out. And that's something that we have to understand as a community, that your voice actually do matter. Your vote matters. Then
Yes.
not only that, but we have to start showing up to these meetings. So
Mm.
when they have meetings about us in our communities, we have to show up. We have to be there. We have to let our voice be heard. We have to show that sometimes you don't even have to say nothing, but your presence says everything for you. And so that's what we have to do, because at the end of the day, it doesn't stop at protesting. It doesn't stop at rioting. It doesn't stop at you marching. It doesn't stop at the steps of the city hall. It starts there, right? That's just the
Right.
start of the process. But we have to continue to move forward and press forward until we actually start seeing these changes happening. Until we start seeing police departments. And here's the thing: there's this big old conversation about defunding the police, right? I
Yes.
believe in defunding the police. And so the reason why I believe in it is because I believe that police officers should be police officers, and that they should resource those people who are trained and educated to deal with people of mental health, um, deal with people of homelessness and things of that nature. I'm not saying that we should just dismantle the police department. My thing is that we can use those funds to go somewhere else, like youth programming and like community engagement. We can use those funds to go to housing for the homeless. We can use those funds to go, financial literacy for our community, so we can build a foundation of economic development for our low income families. So we have these things that we can actually do with them. There's going to be funding for police officers, because I'm the first to tell you that we need police officers. No
Yes.
matter if there's a murderer, no matter if there is a homicide, no matter if there's burglary, no matter
Mhm.
if there's a traffic incident, all the way down to somebody stealing a piece of gum, we need police officers. So that's the bottom line of it. Without police officers, you see, what we can get. You can
Right.
just imagine what would happen after that. So we're
Right.
not saying that we don't need police officers. What we're saying is that we can cut down on some of that funding, and that funding can go somewhere else so that the police officer can just stick to policing.
Right. And some of that funding can go towards the community relationships.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I just don't think that's hard. I mean, when I was growing up in Pasadena, I was involved with, look, in my younger days, a lot of things, and you've taken that torch, the torch of that, and we have a great community, and you know, if we had that relationship, a stronger relationship, where they, walk through the communities, get more involved in you know a safe nonviolent protesting,
Absolutely.
so they can understand what we are trying to say. Okay, we are only trying to get respect for brown and black people, just respect,
Absolutely.
you know. And so when you talked about voting, uh, the local levels,
Hmm.
we need to start at the local level, and
Absolutely.
we talk about city clerk, city council, mayor, and like you said, we only see politicians that come to your church when they want to get a vote. Now
Right.
there are some that I know that come often, but
Absolutely.
there are a lot that do not come, but when they're needed or when they're called to come, to
Absolutely.
talk to the people. I think we need to see them more.
Absolutely.
We need to see them more. We need to hear their point of view on how we can make these changes, because we voted them into these seats to make a change.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think
yeah,
that they need to come hear the community voices, right? Don't just wait for an invitation for you to come speak, for you to
that's
come to
right.
these events, right? We want to see you at these events when you're not speaking. We want to see you in these events when you're just in the back, shaking people's hands, talking to them, seeing what they need in their community,
That's
seeing
right.
what their wants are in their community, right?
Right.
And I'll say this: one person that I love, and I see that very much so often, is Tyrone Hampton in the city of Pasadena. We see
Okay.
him do that very often,
Okay.
from walking in
Yes.
the community to holding breakfasts in the community to holding city meetings or different type of meetings in his district. We see it very often. Even when he's walking around the Rose Bowl, he'll run around the Rose Bowl, and I'm walking, and we'll literally wave at each other in connection. You don't know, just that wave is a connection, right?
That's right.
But little things like that is what the community needs to see. That the person that we voted in there and the person that we wanted to be in there is actually sharing our voice in this,
Right.
because it's not our voice versus your voice.
That's
It's
right.
our voice together. And if we actually use our voices together, then we'll build a better community. And that's not only just for the city of Pasadena. One thing I like to say is accountability is a big thing. So
Hmm.
we as a people, we have to hold the people that we vote into office accountable so that they can hold the city manager accountable,
That's
because
right.
we don't vote in a city manager. A city manager is appointed by city council and by our mayor. So
Mhm.
they're the ones who have to hold the city manager accountable. And then once we hold the city manager accountable, then he's the one who holds the police department, the fire department, the parks and
Good point.
recreation, all
Good
that stuff
point.
accountable. So it's levels to
Yes.
these things.
Yes.
So we have to hold them accountable so that we can see the progress that we want to see in our community. And I would say that since these protests have happened across the world, we've been seeing little progress, but
Yes.
there's still a long way to go.
Long way to go.
It's a long way to go. We've been going through
Long
this a
way to
long
go.
time.
That brings up a point. I remember a little younger. I would hear Sam Cooke's song.
Hmm.
And I used to tell my mom, "Oh, we've come a long way." She says, "We still got a long way to go, baby."
Still got a long way
And
to go.
and I know that was probably, I don't know, 30 years ago or so, or 20 years ago, and I see it now. You know
Absolutely.
that. we continually have to fight, and we're tired of fighting. We're tired of fighting.
Absolutely.
I also want to ask you, will you be running for office in the near future?
That's a good question, and that's a question that I do not have the answer to at this moment.
Okay, sounds like a politician to me.
Yes,
Sounds
that's
like
a
a
good
politician
question.
to
But
me.
at this point, I
Well,
do not have an answer to that.
okay, but we need young men like you to stand tall, to be accountable, and make other people be accountable for their actions.
Appreciate it.
So
Absolutely.
I would love to see that if it happens, and you have my support.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes. And welcome to Kitchen Talk family. If you're just joining us, I have Mr. Brandon D. Lamar, our activist and author, with us today. We're having a really deep discussion on, how we're feeling, what we want out of this civil unrest that's going on, the murder of George Floyd, um, on the shoulders of so many, many others that have passed. Cause for just stand your ground, or you got shot, young man got shot because he had a BB gun, and there has to be some kind of accountability. Some police reforming needs to happen. And we talked about community relationships. So please, we would love to hear from you. If you're out there and you want to make a comment, you want to say hi to Mr. Lamar, please do. And we have Felicia Lee says, yes, we need BLD. All right. And then we have Miss Anjay Sharp. She said, that's my family. That's right. Okay. And we have another comment is Pasadena from Lucy. Says Pasadena is ahead on the rest of the country, but definitely have a long way to go. And that's true. We have a lot of people that are fighting for what's right in the city of Pasadena. And, everyone, is doing their best. And I love the fact that we did not see just uh, African Americans in this fight
Absolutely.
as we did in the 60s.
Absolutely.
I was reminiscing of, or looking at pictures of what happened when Martin Luther King, John Lewis, all of those people that marched back then. I mean, dog attacks, water attacks, beat down. I mean, some of the protesting kind of looked like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But the fact that you saw all cultures
Absolutely.
all over the world fighting for justice for all of us, for all of
Absolutely.
us. So we need to continue on that fight. And again, this is Kitchen Talk. If you have any comments, please share them. And if you want to ask Brandon a question, he's here. Have any comments? You have any solutions that you might think that might work? We want to hear them. We want to
Yeah.
hear them. Ade Esho says, "Nice show, Lian. Thank you, Ade." And I think he's in Nigeria. Thank you. See, we were international show. We're international, so that's wonderful. Um,
I think one thing that's important also is that one thing you said is that it's not just the African American community that's out here protesting, right? Um, and it's a difference that we've seen from the beating of Rodney King. Thank God he was alive
from
afterwards.
Pasadena. He was from
Right.
Pasadena, California, our
And
town.
so, and the funny thing is, what a lot of people don't know is I was born at King Drew Hospital, April 28th, 1992, right in the middle of the Rodney King
Wow.
riots.
Well,
So I, so
my
I actually had to
birthday.
come through it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, my birthday was April 29th, the day, and
See,
I remember waking up that morning saying that oh, I want something fantastic to happen on my birthday. And that was the day of the Rodney King riot. We'll never
yeah,
forget it. Never forget
yeah.
it.
I
So we
remember
got
my
another
my mother
comment.
telling me.
Kitty
My
Carter
mother,
said, "Hey, sister. Hello, hello, Miss Courtney." Okay,
I
okay.
remember my mom telling me a story of her coming down to get me from the hospital and literally bringing me back to Pasadena, and just to seeing things on fire and stuff like that happening,
Mm,
and then 28 years later, we're right back at the same place where we was there. But the beautiful part about it is, like you said, it's not just us at this point. It's
that's
Black
right.
people have been crying out for a long time for
Long
equality.
time
We've been
suffering,
crying out for a long
suffering,
time for all this stuff, but now
suffering.
people are crying with us at this point. So it's a
That's
beautiful
right.
sight.
That's right. That's right. It is a very beautiful sight. So I also want to bring up well, a comment. Mr. Colin Kaepernick.
All right.
You know, what I love about the discussions is that all cultures are listening. I hope they're listening. If they're not, they're watching CNN, MSNBC, all these other outlets, and you have all these guests on there, like us, that are saying this is why he was kneeling. He wasn't kneeling to disrespect the country.
Absolutely.
But that has opened up the discussion. Now this has given the fruit of why he was doing this. It wasn't
Absolutely.
disrespecting this country. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I loved it from the beginning, and it's sad to see how um, the NFL had literally turned his back against him because of the stance that he took for the rights of our people.
Hmm.
Seeing the police brutality and seeing the hurt behind our people, he took a stand for it, and the NFL actually turned their back on him.
Hmm.
My question to the NFL and to everybody is: it's so funny that when you guys do something wrong, it's so fast that you guys send out an apology. But my question is, why don't you think before you actually say anything?
That's
And
right.
that's going to Drew Brees' comment that he made, the video that he made the other day. But then now he wants to send us an apology
Yeah, backtrack.
and backtrack it,
Right,
right? But the
right.
funny thing is, if you look at Kaepernick's situation and Drew Brees' situation, the NFL is backing up Drew Brees, but they sure didn't back up Kaepernick.
There you go.
And we see it time after time after time again. You have these celebrities, you have these people who talks outside of their neck, and
Yep.
then after they see that we ain't going for it, then they want to send us apology. And it's happening right even in our own community. The guy that owns Sparrow's laundromat was
Mhm.
going to his next door neighbor because they had a Black Lives Matter sign on their car, and he literally like start telling what you think. Why are you going for Black Lives Matter? Like they're nobody.
Oh,
They don't live in our community.
are
This,
you
that, and the
thinking
other.
of the laundromat on Fair Oaks in Washington in the city of
Absolutely.
Pasadena that a lot of people supported?
That
Okay.
same laundromat. And then
Okay.
he wants to, then today he sent out an apology
Mm.
about his comments. We don't want to hear your apology after the
Well,
fact. This is You have to start thinking before you say these things. We're the ones who patronizing your business, just like the NFL. We're the
yeah,
one who's patronizing your business.
that's right. And Brandon, that's a point. Back in the 60s, we didn't support businesses that didn't support us. And we have to look at that. They're taking our money. It's aren't in our community. So they have to be accountable.
Absolutely,
Goes right back to what you're talking about the police, that community relationships.
absolutely,
Community relationships. So we have a few more comments. Let's see. It says something's got to change this time, or America is on a slippery slope. That's right, because we have plateaued. George Floyd's murder has put this on worldwide notice.
hmm
So, the momentum is up there. People like you, myself, the voters, we can't say, oh, my vote is not going to count. When your
absolutely,
vote counts, you have to get out there. Don't sit at home and say, oh, so and so has not done anything for us. You need to call the city council. You need to call the congress person. You need
absolutely,
to get on them and
absolutely.
and make this, because we don't want to go back downhill on this, on the backs of all these young people that have passed for nothing.
And that's just the ones
Nothing.
that we've seen on video. What about the
There
ones
you
that we
go.
haven't seen?
That's it. What about the ones that we have not seen on video? I believe the Minnesota police officer chief there, if I'm not mistaken, told media yesterday that he encourages people take pictures, videotape.
Absolutely.
And I have a couple of comments here, and then I'm going to show a little bit of your speech at the city hall. I think it was June the 5th.
Okay.
And I'm going to show a little bit of that, but I want to entertain a few comments. Courtney Patterson Jackson, hey, Leanne and brother Brandon, hey. And the funny thing, Brandon, we know a lot of the same people.
You're right. It's amazing.
A lot of the same people. This is from Gail Tucker. Hi, Gail. Thank you for watching the show. We want to thank everybody for joining in on Kitchen Talk. I'm excited to have Mr. Brandon D. Lamar here on the show. This has been really enlightening for me to talk about this. And he actually spoke on June 5th at the city of Pasadena. And I'm going to play a little bit of that at the protest. So I'm going to minimize you on the screen, hopefully, and so you can watch this as well. And then we'll talk about it after.
Do me a favor for one moment. We can just take a moment. We're not taking a moment of silence because we've been doing that for far too long. But what I want you to do is, I want you to listen to the blood that is crying from the streets. I want you to listen to the blood that is crying from injustice. I want you to listen to the blood that is crying from a budget that goes more into the police department than it does into our youth. I want you to listen to the blood that goes more, the budget goes more into our police department than it goes into our schools. Our problem right now is not people that's outside of California. Our problem right now is not people that's outside of Pasadena. Our problem is right here. Because we cannot change the world if we don't first change Pasadena. We cannot change the world if Pasadena does not hear our voice. We cannot change the world if we don't vote the right leaders into our positions. We cannot change the world until we get the right city manager. We cannot change the world until America hears Pasadena's voice. So I say the same thing to you that God said to Cain when Cain killed his brother Abel. Where is your brother? I say the same thing to you. Where is your brother? But I don't leave it there because I don't believe Sandra Bland was a brother. But I say to you, where is your sister? We keep dying over and over and over again. Yes, we see arrests, but there has not been one conviction ever. So when are we going to see conviction? When are we going to see these officers behind bars? When are we going to see change? And let me tell you this, it does not start after the fact. It starts with us being proactive. We cannot wait till another brother or another sister die, but we have to do the work now.
That was an emotional speech you made there, brother.
Thank you.
Made a comment on a video that you did that you were concerned for the children. Can you tell the viewers about that?
Yeah, so I made a comment when COVID actually first happened, and we had to go into what I call hiding, right? We had to go into hibernation. Um, the reason why I was concerned is because our program, and even programs that I worked with before, deals with youth that have complex needs. And so complex needs meaning that they might have some mental health trauma or mental health diagnosis, and they might be in the foster care system or on probation or dealing with domestic violence and verbal violence and physical abuse in their homes. And
Yeah.
so some of the only outlets that they actually get is when they leave home, and the break is when they leave home and go to school or go to programs like ours or like Boys and Girls Clubs and all these other programs that's in the community. But when all these programs shut down, we started to see a high percentage of our young people struggling because they're living in these high stressful environments, high stressful households, and they don't have an outlet anymore. And
Mm.
so, in our program, we do what we call telehealth, and we try to get on FaceTime with these kids
That's
and
good.
Zoom meetings with these kids, and even some of them didn't do Zoom or FaceTime, but we got and we played Xbox Live with them. We was on Xbox and PlayStation with them, playing games and trying to make sure that they actually were stabilized during this whole time because it wasn't just a hard time for people who couldn't pay their rent. But what about people who really didn't have the mental capability to stay in an abusive household? What about these kids that are seeing abuse every single day? And even some of these kids that don't even have meals to eat at home, they were getting their meals from schools. And so this is what we saw over and over and over again. And so, yeah, my heart went out to them, my prayers went out to them, but we tried our best to do as much as we can to keep them stabilized in this moment.
And that's important because not all of not a lot of us think about that. We
Absolutely.
talk about domestic violence.
Absolutely.
It's suicide. It's on an all-time high.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's wonderful that you also do that. Okay, you are Superman. You are our Superman. And I had a comment from a Margaret Hampton said, "Come on, Brandon, that was powerful. We need more young men like you to speak out."
Thank you,
So,
Margaret. Thank you,
yep. And
Margaret.
then we have Tiffany. It says, "Yes, Brandon." So that's good. And we have T. So, one last thing before I get you out of here. You are an author. That you wrote your
First
first
time.
children's book, and I see
First
the
time.
poster behind you, and it's titled "The King in Me." Okay, tell us about the book and what was the passion behind you writing that book.
All right. The King of Me is a book that I wrote maybe about 2.5 years ago. And it's a children book that's focused on young men, right? Anything you know about young men, especially young men of color, we take pride in our hair, take pride in our haircuts, as you can tell mine. So we take very good, we take pride in our haircut, and there's different shapes, there are different sizes of the types of hair. And so the King of Me came from what we do with our hair. Our haircuts is our crown. That's
Right,
what we take pride in. Even if you wear your hair like mine or you wear dreads, that's your crown. That's who you are. That's how you were built. And so this book is a book of affirmations for young kings to get to know. And some of the affirmations can be just of who you are, meaning that I'm kind, I'm gentle. I speak out when it's time to. I speak out when I feel like my voice needs to be heard. So it's specific affirmations that we cover in this book for young African American males, because I believe that if we teach them at a young age, then they will grow up already knowing these affirmations when time gets hard, when
that's
time
right.
gets rough, and so they can confirm them over and over and over again. And so the reason why I wrote this book is so that I could connect with young men around the country that I probably would never speak to in person.
Right, right. Well, if you all are interested in The King and Me, it can be purchased on Brandon DLamar.com. Is that correct?
Yes, www.bdlamar.org.
Okay. And
Yes.
it is available for purchase, so everyone can go to his website and purchase the book. Lean a little bit so they can see the poster there. There you go. It's called The King and Me, and I think it's wonderful. Brandon, thank you. Thank you for hanging with me on Kitchen Talk.
Thank you
I
for
want
having me.
you to come back. I would hope that you would love to come back to Kitchen Talk and let us know what you have accomplished since we've spoken, and actually update us. I would love for you to come back on to update us on what accomplishments that we have completed in this nonviolent protesting that we are doing. And
Absolutely.
like I said, we can go on and on. I can bring all my sticky notes up, but that's for another show. But God bless you, and I want to thank you again for coming on Kitchen Talk, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Thank you. So there you have it, you all. Powerful, powerful information, and he's a young man, and he's doing a lot of things. He's a student um, right now, in addition to his activist work, working with youth. So, we have a lot of men out there that are doing that, but we want to support him. And remember, if you're out there protesting, please be nonviolent and make a difference in vote. I do have some information from the Census Bureau.
It will help small business, not just barbershops, but all small businesses.
The future is in education.
The biggest improvement I'd like to see is the road.
We need parks and civic space.
I will definitely tell my friends to complete the census.
It's important to figure out where we're going as a country.
All right, you guys, that's the 2020 census. I understand in the city of Pasadena that it is very low. So I need everyone in the city of Pasadena, all across the country, to tell your friends to go to 2020census.gov and register. Please register. It makes a difference to what we can have in our communities. Okay. So be sure to register. 2020census.gov. So I'm going to wrap up the show today, but I'm so happy for all of the viewers who have chimed in and with their comments, and those of you who are just watching today. We have a big mountain to climb, but we can do it together. I want to thank everybody for watching Kitchen Talk. And next week, we will have Nakia Fields with Feel Well Empowerment, the discussion on mental health. So, again, God bless, stay well, and see you next week on Kitchen Talk.